judges in the general division who didn't come through the career track of the prosecutor's office and then to the bench.
Right.
I mean, there are other judges that have a civil background and that have, public. There's at least one who had a public defender background,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that having diverse backgrounds adds to the confidence that people have in the justice system.
Okay. So, how many years have you been a judge? Or.
I've been on the bench for almost 2 years.
Mm.
I am the only one in my race who has any judicial experience at all. So when you talk about experience, my opponent has 29 years of prosecutorial experience. So he has been a prosecutor for 29 years.
Uh-huh.
I'm the only one who has been a judge ever. So I have almost 2 years of experience as a judge.
Okay. So before you got appointed, what did you do before?
I had a family law practice. I handled divorce. I handled custody. I was a guardian ad litem at juvenile court, in the foreclosure court in the Cuyahoga County Common Police General Division, and also in probate court. I handled probate litigation matters, things like that.
Okay. So how long have you been doing law, pretty much?
I graduated from law school in 2011. I took my first case on my way home from the swearing-in ceremony, driving back from Columbus, and so that would have been 2011, November of 2011.
November 2011. What's
Yes.
up?
It's my second career. My first career was banking, and I did that while I was in law school.
Okay. So banking. Which bank did you work for? Did you work for a big firm or a small firm?
So I got my first real job at Society Bank, which ended up being bought by Key Bank.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked at the call center out on Tiedemann Road in Brook Park, and I was there for a number of years. Decided when the banks were getting swallowed up by each other, I needed a little job security, so I decided to go work for the post office.
Okay. So 216-772-0500 is the number to call in. So the thing about it is that you were a banker, so you've seen a lot of financial stuff going on back and forth.
Right.
So what is the one intangible you can take from the banking industry to being a judge right now?
Well, I'll tell you, all of my prior experiences add to and contribute to my ability to be able to be an excellent judge. But from the banking perspective, I was a collection agent, a risk analyst. I was a suspicious activity reporting analyst, and I talked on the phone.
Oh, pretty much.
So I listened.
Communication.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to have communication being a judge, especially when it's over there. So what is so background as far as where you're born and raised? You all Cleveland all your life, or?
Right. I was born and raised in Cleveland. I graduated from Glenville High School.
Tarbloodler.
I am Tarbloodler. Actually, there were a couple of Tarblooders I saw down at the Board of Elections today.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and I attended Ursuline. I got my undergraduate degree from there, and I did that while I was working. I was at Bank of America and working there during the day while attending law school in the evening and raising my children.
Wow. How many children you have?
I have a total of 6 now.
Wow.
At the time, I had 3.
Wow.
And I have a blended family, so 4 biological children, 2 stepsons.
Oh, wow. So you pretty much, so you and your husband, you worked it out like, the black version of the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Where's Alice the maid? I'm just kidding.
No, we don't have that.
All right. So pretty much, so you know what this city needs, and you know what you've been in this county pretty much all your life.
Absolutely. The city, I can tell you, our justice system needs a change in culture.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I have been able to determine, I had a feeling before, I was able to talk before in 2018 about the changes I thought we needed, but actually being on the bench and watching things unfold that are a culture of overcharging. Those kinds of things seeing it is quite a different thing. And I'm way more passionate about it now than I was in 2018 because I see it.
Okay. So you believe in bail reform, correct?
I do. I believe in bail reform, but I've pointed this out to many people. You can reform bail as much as you want. It's not going to make a difference if the culture doesn't change. And by that I mean from a person's initial interaction with law enforcement all the way up until the indictment, and then when the case is handled at trial, there has to be fairness, and the rules and the laws and procedures have to be applied to everyone the same. And if that doesn't happen, then bail reform it won't change anything.
Right.
People will still be overcharged, and then the argument will then be they should have no bail.
Right. So I understand that. So now let's fast forward to this year. This has been one crazy year.
Yes.
With the pandemic and racial injustice as far as law enforcement. How do you feel about the movement of Black Lives Matter, the movement of police officers killing unarmed African American citizens and minorities, and those particular things? Seeing this, play out on television, the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, um, Jacob Blakely, all those people, and even some some things that happen here in Northeastern Ohio. How do you feel as a judge? How do you feel about that?
Well, I know that I can't speak about the specific issues in those cases because they are pending litigation.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can tell you is the issue of inequity in our justice system, including in my own family, profiling and things like that, that's not new. That's not a 2020
Right.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
It has been going on forever. Like I told you, I have, 4 sons,
Right.
and I've had to have the talk with all of them about how to behave when you are stopped by the police. This isn't every police officer, but it happens
It
enough.
happens enough.
And the only difference now is it's being video recorded. That's the only difference. This has been going on forever. So, do I believe Black Lives Matter? People have asked me that a lot. I mean, I'm black. Yes, I believe Black Lives Matter. Do I believe there are injustices? Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons I decided to run for judge, because I felt like we didn't have enough black judges in our common pleas court to reflect the number of minorities in our community.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like something is wrong if our people, you go through the court system, you get overcharged with a felony when really the evidence supports a misdemeanor. Even if that case gets at the end pled down to a misdemeanor, when you go to apply for a job, you know what people will see when they do that background check?
The felony.
They're going to see you were charged with a felony.
Yeah.
Now, we all know you're innocent until proven guilty. That's
Right.
the way it's supposed to work. But would you have somebody babysit your baby if they had been charged with assaulting a police officer?
Probably not. I don't think. I don't think I would have them charge my 8-year-old for anything at all.
Right.
But I understand where you're coming from.
But
So
my point is that it ends up creating a disproportionate situation where we're trying to figure out why a certain population of young people can't get jobs. Well, if they're overcharged, even if it's pled to a misdemeanor, they're going to have a real hard time finding a job.
Mm-hmm.
That's systematic.
Right. So we also have mental health disparities in the African American community. Would you have a mental health docket in your courtroom, or would you, if you were reelected, or when you were reelected?
So our common pleas court we have specialized dockets.
Okay.
So though there are certain judges like Judge McClellan, there are certain judges that handle this specialized mental health docket.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a specialized docket, but what I do is believe firmly in mental health and substance abuse issues needing to be addressed in order for someone to be able to break a cycle of recidivism or, criminal conduct. So when I put someone on probation, I almost always get a mental health assessment and or substance abuse assessment depending on the issues that the person has. And then I require, as a condition of community control supervision, that they attend therapy appointments, whatever it is that case plan determines they need, that they do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do it, especially if it's like substance abuse or learning to medication management, if they do those things, they're typically going to be candidates for early termination of probation.
So pretty, as long as they follow their case plan that you set out for them.
That's right.
Okay. How many? So is it difficult to set a case plan? Do you know? Being a judge is trying to find the best feel for the person, for the defend, for the person being accused of the crime. So is it hard to determine a case plan for somebody by looking at them, or is it easier by looking at them or their record? How do you determine a case plan by, each particular case plan for a defendant comes in your courtroom?
Well, so we have a probation department, and our probation department, they do an evaluation to determine what the person's needs are. If they need substance abuse treatment, if I believe that they need that, I'll order what we call it a task assessment, where they do a history and they determine, what drugs or alcohol or whatever substance issue there may be, and they provide a report to me. So I use that report along with the pre-sentence investigation report,
Mm-hmm.
along with the statements that the defendant says in the courtroom. Sometimes their family is there, and I will allow a family member to speak. Any information that I can get from parties who know, I use that information to determine what is needed.
Okay. So pretty much with that, do you see, as we all know what's going on in this country as far as the racial divide and the mental health assessment, do you think that this helps defendants not commit another crime, the case plans that you put out?
Well, the probation department comes up with the plan, like whatever assessment they get. Either they'll get a mental health assessment or a substance abuse assessment.
Mm-hmm.
I say you have to follow the case plan. So I order that they follow the case plan as set out by the service providers. And then I may order other things, like, for example, if it's an alcohol issue, I may order a scram monitor to monitor if the person uses alcohol. And then if they do, then I know that we need to step up whatever programming is in place. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they need more than intensive outpatient treatment. Maybe they need inpatient. So
meaning a treatment center.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's sort of how I go by determining what's needed.
So before I ask this one, before we ask for the information of how can people contribute to your campaign, so pretty much you being the only other African American woman in the Cuyahoga Common Pleas Court, the General Division made you run for this seat to keep it, correct?
Well, there are 4 of us now.
Uh-huh.
When I took the bench, there were only 2.
Okay.
And then Judge Turner was elected.
Right.
She made 3, and I'm 4.
Okay.
So.
Who were the first 2?
Shirley Strickland Saffold
Mm-hmm.
and Cassandra Collier Williams.
Okay. That was my guesses, but I wanted to make sure I was right. So it's you 4. So pretty much you are a small minority.
Right.
So how?
No men.
Right, no men. So it's just African American women. So no men.
No African American men.
Wow, that's crazy. We have a lot of talented African American brothers that are attorneys. We need to change. That needs to change.
I try very hard to convince every young African American man that comes into. You can ask every one of them who's ever come into my courtroom. I always say, "Why don't you consider running for judge?"
They should.
Yeah.
The question is that what is the most interesting thing that you have learned during this campaign? Because you meet a lot of people, you talk to a lot of people. Some people may like you, some people may like your opponent, and I like you. What is the most interesting you have learned on this campaign?
I did not realize that judicial races were as political as they are. I know that sounds really naive, but it's true. I really believed that judicial races, they are nonpartisan races, and that's what the letter of the law says.
Right.
They're nonpartisan, and I thought that that's
what it
at
was
the
supposed.
core the
Right.
way it's supposed to be. I believe it's the way it's supposed to
Right.
be. And the reason for it is, I will give you an example. During the COVID pandemic, every courtroom had to, implement processes and procedures. We went to, virtual